Okay, welcome Virtual CVW-8 to a little tutorial here about how to do some basic mission planning using Combat Flite. One of the nice things in the way that we simulate things here at CVW-8 is we provide basically an open world kind of sandbox concept. There are certainly ways with DCS using the mission editor to create particular missions that will populate all your waypoints into the aircraft for you every time. And it's good for that one particular mission. You go fly it, you have fun, you come back. What we do at CVW-8 is a little different. We provide an open world TESTA or FRTP concept. Right now we're in TESTA, but we create a world in which you get to, simulate being a fighter pilot. And part of that world is you're going to have to put together some mission planning products and come up with a plan for what you want to go out and train that day. So really the world's your oyster. We're going to provide you with a bunch of different objectives, whether that's ground targets or air targets or whatever the case may be. And you get to choose what you want to work that day. And using Combat Flite, you can create custom missions based on the objective that you've chosen to do that day. So what we're going to do is kind of go over how that works and how you can put that together. And what you'll find is it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Combat Flite does a really nice job of allowing you to just custom make strike routes and planning and graphics, all that kind of stuff, which are really great for briefing, screenshots for all these kind of things. It all works out really well. So the first thing you're going to need, so let's just say, tonight we've got Tuesday night TESTA coming up tomorrow. And I'm going to put together a small little flight for a division. We're going to go strike a target on Tinian at the radar array facility there on Tinian, close to where that SA-6 is. All right, so first thing we need to do is figure out where our target is. So we pull that information from Civic. Okay, so you're going to come into Civic, you're going to put in your password, and bring up the Civic screen. Okay, first thing that we also need to know is what flight are we going on, because when you work with Combat Flite, in order to get the TOT timing to work, you're going to have to know how far from mission start your takeoff is. Okay, so if you can see mission starts at 9:30, we're actually launching at 17:30 on event 7 with this mission planning. So that's an 8-hour window. We'll have to put in an 8-hour hold in order to get time on the proper timing, and I'll show you what I'm talking about there. But so let's click through these slides and find the target that we want to hit. So we're going right here. This is DMP 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to use DMP 4 as kind of our centroid. If you're doing LGB deliveries, you don't really need to customize DMPs. If you put your target waypoint right in the middle, then everyone can kind of slew their pod to their DMP and it works out just fine. If you're doing JDAM deliveries, then as a flight lead, you'll need to provide the precise lat longs for all the DMPs that you're striking and put those onto the kneeboard card so guys can put those into either pre-planned missions or update their target waypoint for when they go waypoint designate. But in our instance, we're planning for an LGB delivery, so I'm just going to use DMP 4, which is over here, North 1502, 5319. And 145, 36, 39, 25. So we'll come back to this to pull those as we make our strike route. But now that we know what we're going to go hit, we know our objective, now we need to start doing some planning for it. So we're going to use Combat Flite for that. Okay, you open up Combat Flite, it's going to give you the screen on whatever theater you were last on. And what you're going to need to do the first time you start building missions in Combat Flite is you're going to need to upload the MIS that we're using. So whether that's the TESTA MIS, Air Wing Nellis, Comp2X, or eventually deployment, we will have a MIS that's available to mission planners that they can load up. Now during FRTP, we're not really trying to hide any of the red air type stuff. Everything is pretty well known what's out there because we want you to be able to plan around it. When we get to deployment, we'll be trying to hide the red air stuff so that it's just not as easy to game the system. We want you to work with the intel that's being provided through Civic and then plan your flights accordingly. But for the purposes of what we're doing today, I'm going to load up a MIS here. So I'm going to go to Open, Save Games, Open Beta, Missions, and I've got one in here. Oops, I clicked the wrong thing. Okay, there's a gotcha, right? So I went to Open. If you go to Open, it's looking for CF files, .cfs. Those are Combat Flite files. When you do your first flight, you can save a Combat Flite file, and then you can use it to plan every flight for the rest of the phase, which is pretty sweet. So I've got a flight planning file, CF file, going right now that has 3 different strikes in it, all with 3 different waypoints, etc. And I can easily pull those and just use them. Like the planning for that event is already done. I can always go back and just do it again. But when you do it the first time, you got to come over here to import Ms. All right, so we'll go to Ms, yes, to a new mission. There we go. So now we're in Save Games, Open Beta Missions, and I have one in here called Tested North Mission Planning Ms. All right, so we'll open that up. You can go ahead and click yes to all of this, and you'll see why. Especially in FRTP, you definitely want to see all the red stuff. We'll talk about why when we get to deployment. Probably not going to have the red stuff on there. You don't want to have the red stuff on there. You can always cheat and do it, but it's kind of gaming the system at that point. Better to work with what you've got coming to you through Civic. So at this point, we'll upload everything in here. And boom, you're going to get all this spaghetti everywhere. Okay, so all those waypoints, this is what's actually in the Hornet waypoint load right now. Okay, well, we don't need all of that stuff for what we're doing. And what's nice is over here in this window, the mission window, you've got flight information, you've got packages, which we don't really use, you've got layers and objects, which we will use, and then this whole surface unit's not really applicable. So really the two tabs that you're using are going to be this one here, flights, and this one here, layers and objects. What you'll see also is it's going to tell you when the mission start is. So 9:30 is when this mission starts, and remember our takeoff's at 17:30, so we'll do some changes there. Okay, so I don't want to see all of these waypoints, so I'm going to turn all of these flights off. You'll see right here, these flights are all synced up to the multiplayer flights that we have in the Ms right now, right? So 3 Colt flights, 3 Uzi flights, a couple forward flights, and ended field. We're going to turn them all off because we don't want to use any of these. So we can turn them all off. You just make them blind by clicking this little eyeball. Turns off everything. There go all those waypoints. Boom. Okay. So we're not using any of those. Okay, the other thing I don't want to see is all these threat circles. So if you look here and you expand this a little bit, you can see red threat circles. Great. Let's turn those off. Boom. Okay, now we have a pretty clean mission file that we can start, or actually, a depiction of the mission, if you will. We still see all the information over here as far as targets go. If you scroll over these, it's going to tell you what they are. So you can go in, if we get in real close, you can start looking around. And these little tracks, they're good enough to get you in the area, right? So this is the SA6, for instance. I mean, it's very, very tight. You got to get in real close to start breaking these out. But you can see you do have the SA6 here. Unless you know what the Russian designator is, it might be a little difficult for you to tell what they are. But I recommend using the Civic slides for mission planning, okay? But you will get some idea of what's going on in here, and it'll help you out a little bit. So as we come back out, one thing I do want to know about is where my tanker track is. So if I go back to the flight tab here, and I go find my tankers, I want to see their track. So click that. And this one should be in the same place, which it is. So either one of the tanker tracks is going to show you, okay, this is where Texaco 2-1 and Texaco 2-1-1 are anchored, and they're capping. I like to use that because I'm usually going to do some frontside gas before I run one of these events. Now, okay, so we've got the tanker track indicated. If you click off of that, this little window will go away. So when you click in the map and there's nothing selected or hooked, that will go away and you're just looking at stuff. So now what we need to do is create a new flight. We're going to do a new flight for our purposes of mission planning because we're not trying to change anything on these multiplayer placeholders, if you will. I want to be able to do something completely brand new because I'm not uploading anything into DCS. I'm really just pulling information from Combat Flite to put onto my TAC admin card so that guys can update their custom waypoints and we can create our sequences and our targets, etc. So in order to do that, we go to mission. Oh, nope, sorry. I always forget which is where. Object? Yep. Okay, object is where we want to be. And we'll go over here to flight. If we click insert new flight, we're going to get a window pop up. It's going to ask us what kind of flight we want to do. So I want to do an AI, that's an air introduction or strike. I want to do a flight of Hornets. And I want it to be a 4-ship. And I don't care what the payload is, that doesn't matter. So we can just turn that off, and now I'm going to say go pick waypoints. Okay, so now I'm kind of loaded with this flight. You can see it popped it up here, gave it a call sign of infield 3. You can change that to whatever you want, doesn't even matter. But the main thing here is you need to figure out where you want to start this thing. So as you come in and you get close to mom here, you'll see a little thing that says snap to CVN 71. Okay, you want to start at the boat, so that's what you want to do. So you click, boom. All right, now you are set at the ship as your first original takeoff point. Okay, we're going to worry about timing later. First, I just want to get a rough sketch as to where I want our waypoints to go. So I'm still loaded. See, I got the little crosshairs, right? I'm still loaded to drop more waypoints. Up here it says insert waypoint. The one gotcha with Combat Flite is like you have to remember to deselect things in order to not drop stuff. If you accidentally ever drop a waypoint, you can just click delete and it'll go away. But right now, I'm still loaded to drop waypoints. So I know that for my flight, I want to have a waypoint at the tanker track, and you don't know where the tanker's going to be, so just pick anywhere along there. So I'm going to say one here, and then I know I want to have a push point, and it's probably going to be somewhere down around here. Okay, and then I know I want an IP, and I'm going into Tinian, so somewhere around here. All right, and then I know that the target we're going after is basically right about here. Okay, and then I need an egress flow point. Now a lot of times I'll put the egress flow point back with the push point because it just kind of, it doesn't, you don't have to though, you can put it wherever you want. So I try to draw it in line with mom so that we're just headed in the right direction. So for our purposes, I will put it, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, I'm gonna put it right here. Okay, so we've got our tanker point, we've got our push, we've got our IP, we've got our target, and we've got our egress flow point. Now I come up here and I turn off insert waypoint. It's deselected and I have my little arrow cursor back. I don't have the crosshairs anymore. That means now I can manipulate stuff that I have placed down, okay? So when you start kind of figuring this out, there's some things you want to take a look at. Is your IP where you want to be? Now, I'm fine with the infield call sign, whatever, that's fine. If we come back here, don't worry so much about the originating waypoint at the ship. That one doesn't matter too much. You're really more concerned about the tanker, push, etc. after that. What I will do to make it all make sense is I'll come in and I'll name these things. So this first one's going to be AAR. You have different types of points that you can put in here, so I'll actually make it an AAR point. Okay, and I'm not going to mess with the lat long just yet. We'll do that in a minute. For timing, I will switch to ground speed and I'll go 420. Okay, it's just a common planning factor. Okay, the next one here, this is going to be our push, and so I will name it push. And I don't know if there's a push point or not. Let's see. Yeah, push point. Okay, there's push point. Same thing here. We're going to change this to ground speed. We're going to switch to 420 and press enter. Okay, now you can toggle to the next waypoint by just doing this. You don't have to click them. So next one's here. This one we know is our IP. Not IP. This is going to be an IP right here. You'll see that changes your symbology to a square, which is the IP symbology. 420 for ground speed. Enter. And then if we click to the next waypoint here with the arrow, this is our target. So TGT for target. We're going to change that type of steer point to target. It'll change it to a triangle, which is your target waypoint. Same thing here. We'll switch to ground speed. Go to 420 on the ground speed. Enter. And then our last point is going to be our EFP. This one I think is just a steer point. I don't think they have an egress flow point. Yeah, so you can just leave it as a steer point. Change that to ground speed to 420. Boom. Okay, and then what I will do is click on, so here's something that's interesting. If you try to click on a thing and there's a bunch of crap in the way and there's multiple points at the same place, if you click, well actually I grabbed the right one. Sometimes it'll give you a little list of things to choose if there's a bunch of things on top of it, on top of themselves. But for the departure waypoint, I still go ground speed and I put about 360 just as a good estimate for how long it's going to take us to get there. Now, what you will see here is because the mission starts at 9:30 and we want to have a 17:30 launch, we need to build in an activity. This little activity box here is where you put in delays at waypoints. So for our purposes, right now it says 20 minutes. We need far more than that. We need it to say 8 hours in order to get it synced up properly. Okay, so what happens is when I put in an 8-hour delay, Actually, what I should have done is showed you guys first. So let me put 20 minutes back in there. All right, if you look at 20 minutes right now, and we zoom in a little bit here, you can see the timing to get to the AAR waypoint says 9:53:39. Okay. One of the other things you can do is in options, you can show dog houses, and this is going to give you courses, the course line, the distance, the time en route, and the altitude that you currently have set. So you can turn those on, turn them off, whatever. But right now we got 9:53. Well, that's not right. We're taking off at 17:30. So that's why we need to change this to 8 hours. Boom. And if we look at it now, oh, I'm on the wrong waypoint. You got to go back to the original waypoint. So take that. All right, take that one off. No delay at the tanker track yet. Go back to waypoint 0. Put in an 8-hour delay. Boom. 17:33:39. So now we are looking at a proper launch time of 17:30 off the ship, and all of our waypoints are going to make sense time-wise. So you have to add the delay based on the mission start time to when you are actually going to be taking off in order to get your waypoints to make sense when it comes to timing. Okay, so once you've done that on the origin, the waypoint 0, then you don't really have to do anything else. Now, I will typically build in a delay at the AAR. I'll give us about 10 minutes time because I'm still working on trying to get to the TOT on time. I've been using 10 or 12 minutes. I think that might actually be, we'll stick with 10. So we're going to add a 10-minute delay right here at waypoint 1. Okay, so that gives us activity of 10 minutes, meaning we're going to do about 10 minutes worth of fueling right here before we press to the push. And so we get there at 33. It's only about 6 minutes to the next waypoint, so that should mean it would be 39, but you can see it's actually 49 because we're spending 10 minutes delay at the AAR point. Okay, so all of that makes sense. The last thing that you're going to take a look at is if you're trying to do a hard TOT, you have to take a look and see, okay, what is that TOT going to be, right? So we've got a 17:30 launch. I find about 45 minutes after the launch is in the window for getting on TOT, but I've actually seen that it's actually a little bit late. And so I'm going to try a 50 minutes post-launch, which means I want to be hitting this target. I want to be hitting the target at 18:10. So right now we're showing time on target at 18:02 and 18 seconds. So let's take a look at the distance here. Right now I have an IP that's 12 miles from the target. That's not enough. You want to be looking at about 25 to 30 miles for the IP. Right? You're going to use offensive flow range for your target area commit. If there's no groups within that range, then you can go ahead and switch to attack and flow into the target. So 25 to 30 is going to work out okay, especially for SAR 1. So this is too close, right? So I want to use my range and bearing, which is in my case going to be the scroll wheel. If I press on it, I get the range and bearing. And I want to see, okay, where do I need to be? If I want a 25 mile, it's somewhere up here. All right, got it. I'm going to put it back here by the 54. So I'm going to grab this dude. I'm going to pull him back here. And you can see the doghouse information is changing. I got 115 at 25. I'm going to go scroll up until I get 112 at 25. There, I like that. 25 miles on a 120 heading into the target, and we're going to be looking pretty good. Now, right now, the target waypoint is just dropped on top of this stuff, and we haven't really sweetened it up. So again, we want to go back to this, and I'm going to move it to a different screen so I can type it in. But if you come back to your Civic page and pull your target DMP, this is when we can start updating information. So select your target waypoint, and you know you've got it updated or selected when it gives you information over here. Target, all right, and here's, now, it defaults to degrees, minutes, decimal minutes, right? And that's fine. So you have to do all your planning in degrees, minutes, decimal minutes. The target information from DCS, I have degrees, minutes, decimal minutes, so I can use that. So for this target, I'm going to go 1502, and then it is 886, and then 14536 654. And I press enter. You'll see it shift slightly, and right now that means that triangle target is right on top of where we want it to be. What I'm going to do now is lock it in place so I don't accidentally move that that target waypoint, and it's all set where it is. Now 1802.17 is still not quite what we want, and the thing is we know that I'm going to get rid of these dog houses for now. We know that we have threat air out here, so there is a good chance that we're going to have to deal with an ingress presentation. Additionally, we're going to have to delay a little bit because we have some SAMs out there. So for this mission, if I expand this SAM list, I want the SA6 at Tinian, not that one. I want the SA6 at Tinian to be active, and I also want the SA2 at Saipan to be active, as well as the SA8 at Tinian and the SA3. Oh, not that one. Not that one. That one. There. So that's the IADs that I am choosing to use for this mission, because I want to have to target both the SA2 and the SA6. The SA3 and the SA8 could be avoided, so we won't end up targeting those. But we will have to take some harm shots in order to knock these things down before we go into the target. So what I will do is build a delay into the IP. Okay. So we have 1802.17 right now at the target. What I'm going to do is, in order to get to an 1810 target, I'm going to create a delay at the IP to make that say 1810. So if it were 1802 even, it would be 8 minutes, but it's a little bit less than that. So it's 7 minutes and 43 seconds. So if we build in a 7 minute 43 second delay at the IP, boom, 1810 on the dot. Okay, so now we know a couple things. So we know that we have our target is set up for a hard TOT at 1810. We know that in order to make that TOT, we need to hit the IP by 17, not 1758, 41. This is the one thing where things get a little goofy. Bring those dog houses back up. You'll see that the time from the IP to the target is 3 minutes and 36 seconds. Okay, when you build in a delay, it actually adds the delay to that time. So you can't just look at this and say, oh, this is when I need to hit it. No, this is not when you need to hit it. This is the time minus the delay, right? So you need to know how long that route is from the IP to the target. So I need about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So if you back that off from 1810, I need to be pushing by 18630, right? If I do that, I've got a good chance of hitting that TOT right on. So get rid of that. Now, again, this is all if you're trying to figure out that hard TOT thing. You don't have to do that. All of this mission planning stuff is very effective to help you do it without worrying about it. So now what I would say is, what I like to do in order to make things a little bit cleaner on what we're going to do next. We have the route, all right? The route's fine the way it is. We don't really need to do anything else to the route. But what I like to do is try to get these waypoints on whole degrees and minutes. Okay, so I don't like the decimal stuff. It ends up getting, translated strangely. And so I will come in here, and if it's over 0.5, I will round up to the next minute. In this case, it's under it, and so I'm just going to bring this back down to 0, and I'll do that, and it just shifts it slightly. Okay, and then I will lock that one in place. The target we know is already locked, so I'm not going to change that one. It's fine that that one's goofy. The push point, or sorry, the egress flow point, we're just going to make that 0 because it's not over 0.5. Same thing here. We're just going to make these 0. And I'm just zeroing out these decimal minutes, okay, because I just don't want them. No reason to have them. It makes data entry a lot easier. I'm working on integrating the waypoint editor loader thing, utility that's out there, but if you don't have that, it's a lot easier to put these in if you just have a bunch of zeros. Okay, so those are all good, and we go back to the push point here, 0.42, we can just turn into 0, 0, and 832, we're just going to turn, we're going to round up to 10 and make this 0, 0. Okay, and one more, the AAR point. This is under 0.5, so we are going to, oops, decimal 0, 0, 0, and 0, 0, 0. This is not a have to do. This is a preference thing. You can leave them just as they are. It's fine. It just gets a little messier when you're pulling your waypoints. Okay, so what we have now is a flight path. We can see that we've got everything we need. We've got 26 miles, whatever. It's 3 minutes and 38 seconds. It's fine. Changing the IP shifted it a little bit different, a little bit further away. It's fine. So you've made your strike path. It's all good to go. Now, how do you pull these points in order to use them in your TAC admin card? Ooh, okay. Well, here's something that popped up. So shifting these points around and making that a little bit further away put us 1 second off the TOT. So if you got 1 extra second, then in order to fix that, you just need to push 1 second earlier on your IP delay, and it goes back to 0. Okay, so again, you're messing with that IP delay. You could do it at the push too. It doesn't really matter where you put the delay, but I put it at the IP because we got to deal with these SAMs, and you're also going to be dealing with air picture as well. So speaking of air picture, now we get into a little bit more of a discussion about how to make this thing all nice and pretty. So when we want to bring in some different objects, aircraft symbol is what we can use to throw in some stuff to help make our point when we're doing briefing cards or anything like that. So I know I've got MiG-21s, so we're going to drop a MiG-21 right here, and we're going to change him to yellow. We're also going to make him a bit smaller. 0.8 works for my purposes. And what you can see here is you can change his heading, you know, by drawing this around, whatever. We know that this cap kind of goes north-south out of Tinian, so he's good where he's at. You can do labels and all that stuff, but whatever, you don't need it for this. And then the other one is a MiG-23 that we know. Right here. He's going to be over in this area. Same deal, we're going to change his color, make him yellow. Change his heading, or west, and shrink him to about 0.8. Okay, good. So, okay, so if that happens, because I'm still loaded on aircraft symbols, if that happens, just hit delete, it'll go away, and now you're not in aircraft symbols anymore. Okay, so now we're back. We've got our threat representation, we've got our SAMs, we know what's going on. How do we take this information and get it into our TAC admin card? All right, so the way we do that is we go to mission, right? Mission tab up here. You want to make sure that you're on your flight, the flight that has the waypoints that you need, okay? Which in our case is in field 3. And you click kneeboard, all right? When you click kneeboard, it's going to bring this up. If you don't do anything, then when you move this to Excel so that you can actually pull these waypoints off, it will leave them in the degrees, minutes, decimal minutes. But if you come over here and select degrees, minutes, seconds, just click yes, it will convert them all to degrees, minutes, seconds. And that's pretty much what we want because that's what the Hornet uses primarily. Now the Tomcats are using degrees, minutes, decimal minutes, so you have that already available for you. And you can also select maggers if you wanted to do that as well, but pretty much degrees, minutes, decimal, or degrees, minutes, seconds, decimal seconds is what we want to use. So now we're going to go in and go click export to Excel. At this point you choose your template, whatever, just use the default one. Click proceed, it's going to ask you where you want to save it. I have my mission planning file, and I'm just going to name it mission planning test. Okay, it's going to export that, and it's going to export it into an Excel file. When it's done exporting, it's going to tell you it's done, and you can open it. So what I would do is just open it, and open on my other screen. So here you go. Okay, so we've got our points. Just come up here to the column, double click it to make it full size, and you can see now, I still haven't quite cracked the code on this whole like degrees, minutes, seconds, decimal seconds. Like, why is it 6? I don't understand why that's the case. It should have been all zeros, but again, whatever, it's going to get you close enough for the points on the navigation. So what I will typically do now is, a lot of time, what I'll do is just copy and paste these. So I only need the push, IP, target, and EFP. And so what I will do is screen capture it, Windows Shift S, draw a box around those points, and then lift them and put them straight into my TAC admin card. So, for instance, if you look at this file here, you can see that's what I did here. So, this is just an image, it's a screen capture, right? And it's just overlaying. I sized it to be the right size, and I just put it in place so that guys can read these and put them in to the aircraft. Minimize the number of points that you use, because you got to hand jam all these. So a lot of cases, if you got to push, IP, target, and flow point, that's probably about all you need. More complex missions may have some more points, but you can work with that. Okay, so then you've got that in there. Obviously, you have to pull your target precise dimpies off the Civic slide in order to have, to have all the target information that you're going to put on the second side of your card over here. All this information, this all comes off the Civic slide. So you pull all your dimpy information and make that happen. But then you can close this. It's saved, so you can just close it. Doesn't matter, just save it. And then you can close this. So at this point, you've made your mission, you've pulled your waypoints, you've got your timing set up, you have a TOT of 1810. You can now, on your flight card, and what you'll see is, if you look at this one, you can do a little math to make it easy for everybody. So push of 1020, this was a different timeline, but IP of 1040 for a 1045 TOT. So you can use the information that you built in Combat Flite and come up with the timing that you need and put over here to help yourself remember when you need to go do these things. But other than that, I'm trying to think. So at this point, you've built your mission, and what I would do now is go to File and go to Save As, because what you want to do is save this, because you've already imported the MIS. You don't need to do that again. You can now just build new missions using a new flight. And save this one. And so the way to do that then, I'll just, some mission planning demo, and just drop that in kneeboard cards. Okay, so you've got this up here, and now you can say, okay, I'm done with this flight. I don't want to do this one anymore. I'm going to go back here to flights. So the simplest way to do this, because if you want to just shift your target, but you don't want to lose all the planning you did for this one, keeping in mind that if you ever need to change your TOT because you're flying a different event, just change the delay back at waypoint 0 to sync up with your launch time, and everything else will stay the same. So if you want to use the same push, maybe even the same IP, whatever the case may be, if you come up here to infield 3, which is the one that you've got, right? If we click that eyeball, everything goes away, right? Click that back up. There he is. Right click, clone flight. You've got infield 4, hide infield 3, and now you can come through, and you'll have to unlock this stuff so you can move it around, but now you can just make whatever changes you want, all right? If you wanted to go, hit something up at Saipan, you have to come in, unclick the lock on the target, and just drag that thing up to Saipan and go hit something over here now, right? And now you're just making a new flight. Now you've got a new mission that you're doing. And so again, if I wanted to see the old mission, I just hide the new one, bring up the old one, boom, still there, all right? Everything's set. So what that allows you to do is just have one file that you're building multiple missions on top of, so that when you go flying, if you want to go practice one that didn't go great or something like that, you don't have to replan all this stuff. It's already done. You'll probably already have the kneeboard card, etc. But if you did want to plan something new, again, you don't have to replan everything, because you probably already have a good tanker point, a good push point. Maybe you just need to move your IP and your target and set it up for something else. So hopefully this has been helpful and explains what's going on. If you have any questions about anything I've covered in this one, something didn't make sense, etc., please bring up the question in training or the O Club, whatever, and we'll cover it there. The bottom line here is that as you continue to go through your Swifty qualifications and move towards section division lead, a big part of sustaining the virtual you know, the virtual wing that we have here is other people learning how to do this mission planning and, you know, stepping up and saying, hey, I'll lead this one. I'll put something together. I'll go fly this, so that we start kind of spreading the love, sharing the burden of mission planning, and everyone can kind of take their turn going through stuff. It really is not that difficult. Hopefully this video has helped illustrate that. And you've got plenty of folks here who can help you along the way. So that's all I've got for today. Appreciate it, and factory forever.